The discussion is led jointly by our speakers, Mr. Anchal Jain and Mr. Manoj Kumar, who are the founding partners at Valmore Action Advisory. Before I introduce our speakers, let me request Mr. Arun Rungta, MD, HGH India, who is also one of the torchbearers of the Indian home industry for more than 30 years, to present the opening remarks. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Madhur. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Anchal. Good morning, Manoj. Good morning, audience. I am particularly excited today for several reasons. One, that we are going to be talking about a subject which is so vital, so important, that crisis leads to a greater future. You know, how crisis can be converted into opportunity, and why we need to think positively at this time to create our own businesses, to let them emerge with greater strength. And I think we have two excellent speakers today in that. I must thank Anchal and Manoj for having agreed to make this presentation, because both of them are veterans in their own right. Anchal Jain has been an entrepreneur all his life. He has been a professional. He has been an academician. Both are qualified. I think more detailed introduction Madhur is going to give it to you for both these speakers. But what I would really like to say, that this is a great blend of Anchal coming from the background of lifestyle industry, from consumer brands, and Manoj coming in from with the background of FMCG sector. He is known veteran from FMCG companies. He has headed some of the topmost pharma, FMCG, consumer goods companies in India. And I'm sure when you hear them, you can make out this is a great blend of SME and corporate sector coming together. And they have created an excellent firm in Valmore Action Advisory, which provides hands-on solutions, practical solutions to businesses. So it is going beyond just theoretical consultancy. I'm sure as you hear them, you will have that reflection coming in very clearly. So I welcome all of you to this presentation of today from HGH India. And I'm sure, as you know, that we are preparing already for the show starting from 8th to 11th June 2021. And one small information before we start, I would like to share that markets are already looking pretty excited. In last 10-15 days, we have been speaking to a lot of retailers, brands, manufacturers, and everybody seems to be saying, where are the goods? You know, selling is not a problem anymore. So I think this mindset that we are all carrying seems to be already reflecting on the retail stores and at the distribution level. And I hope this kind of positivity is only going to build further from here. So now, Madhur, over to you. Please introduce the speakers and take this whole program forward.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your motivational words. Let us now know more about speakers. Our first speaker, Mr. Jain, has 32 years of entrepreneurial, advisory, and academic experience in creative and lifestyle industries. He was the founder and CEO of PrimeTech Surrey, based in Paris, and during his career, he has been participating very closely in the complete value chain management in the lifestyle businesses, including trend forecasting and data analytics. Currently, the founding partner of Valmore Action Advisory, a holistic end-to-end business solution for lifestyle and FMCG businesses that helps them cement their foundations to future growth. Valmore has the ability to connect all the dots, right from abstract human insights to concrete business actions, and deliver multi-stage growth by working alongside the leadership team. In 2013, he was invited by IIM Ahmedabad to serve as the co-chair and creative and cultural business program. Now it's a benchmark in creative and lifestyle entrepreneurial learning in India. Our other speaker, Mr. Kumar, is a seasoned management and sales professional with an MBA degree from University of Chicago, Booth School of Business, USA, and Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. Now also the founding partner of Valmore Action Advisory. Moreover, he serves as an independent director on the board of J.K. Helene Curtis Limited. Mr. Kumar has 32 years of rich experience in general management, marketing and sales with leading global companies like GlaxoSmithKline, Procter & Gamble, Gillette, and Unilever in India and international markets. His experience ranges across multiple categories, which are personal care, nutrition, beverages, health and wellness, home care, fabric care, baby care, writing instruments, and batteries. In his last corporate role, he was the managing director of GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Health in India and member of its board. A warm welcome, Mr. Jain and Mr. Kumar.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, Arun, for those lovely introduction and beautiful words. Arun, it's really great to reconnect after I don't know how many decades in a professional platform like this. Really happy to be here. Good morning to everyone. With me, my founding partner Manoj, and also my batchmate from IIM Ahmedabad. And the Valmore was founded, I was telling Arun earlier, in our 31st reunion of our batch. Just like what we are going to talk about today, it's also a collaborative work. We love doing, we divide our roles as poets and publishers respectively. In fact, the whole presentation that we are talking to you today, the genesis started on 24th of March. Earlier this year, the day we all remember in our lives as the day where lockdown was imposed. And we realized that there is a new world out there. Nobody had an idea of what it's going to look like. A dark, long tunnel where we didn't know where and how and when it would end. We began to reflect on what it means. We had never seen anything like this in our lives, not in our lifetime. So what it meant was something that we had to go back in history and figure what lessons we can learn from any event in the past. There was a whole conversation about this being a black swan event. And well, what references do we have? So what we are going to talk about in the next 40-45 minutes between Manoj and I is really the lessons that we've learned and how we saw the future. In fact, we've seen 6 months since then. We started to publish whatever was actually coming in our minds, reflections, research, talking to consumers, talking to industry, but our own ability to connect dots, which we pride ourselves at Valmore. And 6 months later, we find in a situation that most of them actually have come true. Of course, this conversation today also takes into account all the learnings and confirmations, validations that we've had in whatever we will talk about today. So going back today, is really about what it is. We all know, and I don't need to repeat all the misery, all the devastation, health, relationships, business, individuals, fortunes have been under severe pressure. And we've all scrambled to build the shields around us. However, right then, we saw in this chaos and darkness and uncertainty, we saw light. And we actually were very encouraged by the fact that 15 to 20% of businesses actually emerge stronger from any crisis. And there's no reason why more businesses cannot emerge stronger. And we began to go down into details of what makes them stronger. And so there are two aspects of this presentation: something that lifts the whole economy in a crisis. As we know, and actually we got to know, that evolution is not a very slow, gradual process. It happens in sudden bursts. And these sudden bursts are most often accompanied by chaos and crisis. And this is what we are seeing. What is going to emerge, I can be sure, is a long prosperity period. So we really, really believe that while we manage the current business crisis, we cannot forget about getting ready for the future opportunities. In fact, we coined a word which is ROTI, return on time invested. You know, money we can save for the future, and all of us are trying to do that. But time is something which will slip away. We are not going to be able to save that. How we invest the time that we have on hand today, which is something we actually never did, is going to define what the future actually looks like. So as I said, we went back into history, and the strongest, closest parallel we found was the First War, exactly a century ago. And this event actually is comparable to what is happening today. You know, just as the First War was happening, there was something else that was happening alongside, which went actually hidden, which is the Spanish flu. In fact, it's known as a forgotten pandemic, because at that point in time, the whole world was engulfed in war. All the news was about the war, and more importantly, there was censorship. And because of that, nobody was allowed to talk about the Spanish flu. So in fact, most of the deaths were also ascribed to the war. The name it got, Spanish flu, interestingly, was because Spain was the only country in this part of Europe which was not involved in the war at all. And because it was not involved in the war, there was no censorship. So they were concerned, and they were writing about the flu, which was this virus. So it came to be known as Spanish flu, although it was not even born there. It was born in Fort Riley in Kansas in the US, and then the US soldiers brought it to Europe during the war. We have very interesting parallels. So just as back then the war hid the pandemic, today the pandemic actually hid the trade war that was going on between the US and China. So strong parallels, but we believe that this will also pave way for a strong, very, very strong economic revival. And these are the reasons why. We've got to be ready for that rather than completely go in our shells. Because what will emerge will not be the same as what we left behind back in February. The one thing that actually made a big difference in that war was the home front. Now, what is the home front? Traditionally, and before this war actually, always the wars were fought on the battlefield, hand-to-hand combat. But this time, because of the technological revolution, the warplanes and the kind of ordnance that were and the weapons that were available to the warring parties, the war came home as well. So the civilians were also involved in the war. But more importantly, what happened is that with the men out there at the battlefield, only the women were left behind to manage the industries, to manage the home, to manage back what was home. And that came to be known as the home front. So the women took up the jobs that were traditionally male dominated. For example, they were working in the railways, they were working in the posts, the dockyards, even the farms. More importantly, even making bombs, ordnance factories. In fact, they came to be known as life givers turn into life takers. And all this actually changed the complete gender equation. In fact, for the first time, women were free from the masculine dominance, and they became aware of the potential. Now, I'm not saying this just out of interest and out of a very interesting anecdote, but the important thing is that the years that followed were absolutely phenomenal. And why? And they were known as the Roaring Twenties, the année folle, as they said in France. You know, the post-war and Spanish flu, the economy rapidly transitioned into unprecedented prosperity. Why? Because first of all, the women were adding more to the GDP, the wages were rising, and the number of working families increased to 2x, which means there was a lot more money in the economy. There was pent-up demand, and all these things led to a new revolution, economic revival. But more importantly, because the women were free of the male dominance and they became aware of their own selves, the Women Lib was formed. And this Women Lib, actually this liberated force, heralded a huge bit of opportunities in the lifestyle businesses. You can add, for example, the short skirts were born then, the high heels, the trench coat, the jumpsuit, cosmetics, women shavers, but even iconic brands like Chanel were born at this time, bringing with them trousers, you know, the male style of wearing clothes, but also enjoying life. The trousers, but the little black dress, two different things, but you know, strongly demonstrating their liberty, including their sexual liberty. And this was a spark that created a large economic revolution and completely new opportunities that didn't exist before for the industry and for the businesses. A lot of mistakes were made. I'm not going into that from a political point of view, but they were learned and they were actually corrected after the Second War. The Second War was even more devastating. And in fact, some of the most noted economists, including the Nobel laureates at that time, they had predicted doom and gloom. But instead, there was a huge, unprecedented, longest period of prosperity that the world has ever seen. We expect, and that after COVID, we will have a similar long period of economic boom. Why? Because a lot of conditions are very similar. There is very low oil and commodity prices, strong technology platforms. In fact, the wartime technology developments end up being used for the civilian end users. For example, the assembly line and many other productivity tools were used at that time. We have a different set of technology tools available today, developing today as we speak, which are going to herald in new set of productivity and new ways of working and bringing new opportunities. We got to embrace that. There is a pent-up consumer demand, as Arun just mentioned. This is going to be more and more visible. New levels of productivity, hungry organizations, lean organizations with more muscle, less fat, and of course, helped by big deficit financing by the government, which we are going to see. We are seeing already, and we are going to continue to see. And this will restart the economic engine, and the individual enterprise, the private enterprise will then take over. This is guaranteed. BCG says that 1 in every 7 firms, as I said before, actually improve top line and bottom line during a crisis. The question is, will you be the one? We believe, and actually this is very important, we believe that the fear bigger than COVID is the fear that we will fail to reimagine the future. So here's my bit to you. Challenge yourself. And trust me, in whatever challenge you might be finding yourself, historically or even today, can be overcome by just reimagining the future. reimagine what it's looking like. So what does this new era look like? So we stuck our neck out and we made these many predictions bucketed into 8 of these categories. I'm going to talk about the 4 of these more importantly, which is that the consumer as we knew, the first one, the new butterfly emerges from the cocoon. This is absolutely right. There is a new consumer out there. It's not the same as we knew him or her to be before the lockdown. The second one, and this is very relevant to the audience that we are talking to today, that really it's a boom time for the home industry. I repeat that. It's a boom time for home industry, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The third, that everyone is an entrepreneur today. It's a re-startup world. Even established businesses have to consider themselves as a startup again. And the last, digital, is vital. Digital actually is turning emotional. And human is turning very, very transparent. So I think we'll talk about these 4 elements now. Number 1, what is this new consumer? Well, first of all, we are more reflective today. We are thinking, we are more thoughtful. And this is important because this is the first time in any crisis that we are actually blaming ourselves. We are not blaming anyone else. We invited this. We realized that we've done too much to the environment, to the planet, and us, human beings, are responsible. So something needs to change. And for the first time, we cannot wait for someone else to change something for us. We have to change ourselves. And this is the first most important point, that we may have certain attitudes, but we may not behave the way we believe our attitudes are. Actually, it's the other way around. The behaviors determine our attitudes. And it's proven that behaviors are formed in 65 days. A new behavior, a new habit gets formed in 65 days of persistent practice. It's been 6 months. So certainly there are new behaviors that have been formed. Look at yourself and you will realize that. Similarly, there are many others, millions, billions, everyone in the world who's changing behaviors that were unimaginable just a few months ago. And people are changing these behaviors actually at every level. Mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. So what are these changes? Now, we may predict whatever, but the important thing is that for all of you, the biggest opportunity today, while the business might still be under pressure and under challenge, is to listen to the consumer and understand the consumers very, very well. Technology might be available, but understanding the consumer is in your hands because your consumer is different from your neighbors. The first thing that is happening is that well-being is being more considered and more important than just wellness. Why do I say this? Wellness is aspects of physical well-being, eating well, etc., etc. Well-being also has an emotional element, which means that it's okay to indulge as well, to satisfy your urges, your emotional, your heart's desires. And that's equally important to just eating correct. It's okay to indulge in an ice cream. And people are realizing that that balance is very important. I give a very small example of an ice cream, but same is true for anything else. Look at your own industry and you will realize that the consumers will need something else, which is more emotionally warming, even if it was not the need before. The definition of trust, which means that it's not going to be enough for the brands to say whatever and the consumers to believe that. Today, they will have to go beyond. They will have to be transparent and really talk to the consumer in an intelligent way. You can't take the consumer for granted today. You have to re-win their trust. That's the second point. And the third is that it's not about social distancing. It's about physical distancing that's here to stay. And in fact, here, there is a new challenge for the retailers on how to manage that physical distancing and not the social distancing. To reorganize, rethink the consumer experience that marries the need for closer social interaction, but a larger physical interaction. In fact, people are getting more and more comfortable with remote transactions, but they want closer social interaction. So this is a contradiction that we are not able to yet put our arms around and understand very well. A lot of these things that I'm touching upon, Manoj will be talking more in detail. Personal health will become a matter of state concern and control. Now, this means that our personal privacy is going to be sacrificed, Once again, I say, and we are okay with that. Until now, we were not, but we realized it's not even a matter of choice. It's here to stay. I'm sorry, my laptop is running out of battery, so one sec. Now, what it means is that I'm really comfortable. I'm really comfortable in where I am. Home is where I am, and I want to be home. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have the urge or a desire to get out because we've been locked up for a long time. But there is a big difference. Until now, the home really didn't matter so much. Today, it matters because we are doing far more things at home with far more number of people. There is a new bond with the friends and families that was never before. And it's stronger. We are doing many, many more things, and we'll just talk about the opportunities that it presents. I call it the home run. Really, we are living at home, we are loving at home, we are working at home, and we are playing at home. Now, yes, we want to get out, but there is a new pride in where we are. There is a new love for home. There is pride in home. Home fashion is the new style statement, in fact. The home stylists and curators will be more sought after. Until now, home styling was not as important. Corner office. We are working at home. Everyone can have a corner office, not just a small desk in the office. And this means that there is a new actual need for many things, like small furnitures, but very functional furnitures. But that's only one example. There are many other things that a home office actually presents. We also believe that well-being spaces where we live, where we're playing together, where we are getting together, will become far more important than the bedrooms, which actually held the crown until now in our homes. That has a lot of meanings for the opportunities for the home industry as we know it. We expect demand for more thoughtful, more affordable, smaller housing, but everything that goes with it. In fact, the younger consumer is going to be the focus of attention, just as much as the families are going to be. We are doing so many things at home that we never did before. And with those, there are many, many, many new opportunities for the home industry that are opening up. I actually believe in this. Just as the women's lib led the consumer spending post-war, we expect the home category to do the same for the post-COVID era. Home is going to be the new center for creativity. Why is that? Because for the first time in our life, not in our life, since we were children, we are actually nesting at home. Nesting is a very carefully chosen word. And this term, nesting, means far more than just sleeping and eating at home. Nesting has a very strong meaning, which means that we are actually building a life around us, which is in our nest. We are, as I said, living, loving, working, playing at home. New behaviors are forming. We are cooking. We are enjoying cooking. Everyone, not even the men are enjoying cooking. The children are enjoying to cook. And when they're cooking, they're doing many more things around it. We were baking. There is a DIY. There is a focus on home that was never, ever sharper. In fact, we are paying more attention to our immediate habitat, immediate surrounding. We never paid attention. We are looking at home from fresh eyes, fresh needs. And these needs are actually, as I say, not just functional. Yes, there are functional needs as well, like work at home. But until now, home was mostly functional. Today, there are going to be emotional needs as well. It's a style statement. Totally unserved need with a desire to make our surroundings more snug, more restful, more inspiring, more creative, more happy sanctuaries. And this new way of looking at home actually opens up opportunities for home, just like it opened up for fashion a century ago. And that's a big statement I'm making, but guys, this is a huge time for you to rethink what the consumer's needs might be and how to serve them. And Manoj will talk to you a little bit more. The advantage that home category has over fashion is that while fashion is seen as a spending, just okay, shirt khareed li, kuch din mein, change kar lenge. Home is seen as a timeless investment, which means there is more joy, there is more thoughtful buying, and the spending will happen more easily than over clothes. Now, having said that, there are two other very critical things. Number one, as I said, everyone is an entrepreneur. There is a new world out there, which is a startup. So a resilience, yes, will make you survive, but vision will make you thrive. So right now, what we need is a vision. Everyone is an entrepreneur. Every manager in your organization needs to think and act like an entrepreneur, which means that you need distributed leadership, which means that what you thought of a manager earlier as a manager's role will not be the same. You'll have to give more responsibility and authority to take decisions in an entrepreneurial fashion, which means new set of training, new set of organizational culture. Also coming with it is that change will not be followed. Change will be actually created by us. But the organizations who will disrupt themselves will actually come out winners, rather than waiting for someone else to disrupt the industry or the business. The employees are lonely today. They're working remotely, but the HR is lonelier. HR, like anyone else, doesn't have a precedent on how to deal with it, with the situation. But this also opens up, work from home actually opens up many, many, many opportunities, not just for the businesses, but for the home industry. And more importantly, the possibilities to employ more women. And why do I say this? Particularly for the home industry, where now we are looking at a new way of looking at home, an emotional way of looking at home, a creative way of looking at home. Please bring in more women in your workforce. And lastly, in this whole business world, what is happening is that retailers are rethinking the way they've been buying. It's more thoughtful. The long tail is finally getting cut out. Especially in businesses that have been run on an SOR model, there is a tendency to fill in everything because nahi bikega, wapas chala jayega, hamara kya ja raha hai. Online, this has been happening a lot. But now people have realized, the retailers have realized that actually the best way to engage with the customer is to reduce the number of choices and make them more thoughtful. And that has been proven historically brings in more, easier for consumers to decide quicker for them to decide. And it actually serves them better. People don't like too much choice. Lastly, the digital is something which has moved from a space of a good choice to have than to no option. Today, there is no option but to embrace the digital, whether we are as consumers or as businesses. Now, one of our professors, Manoj, and I will always remember him for this sentence at the school at IIM Ahmedabad that he used to tell us, when there is no option, there's no problem. And it's true, just go out and do it rather than thinking about it as a problem. You have no option. So, you know what? भूल जाओ, अगर कुछ करना है तो करना ही है, तो जाके embrace करो उसको. And technology is today is that. There is no choice. And machines, the technology are smarter, and that is making us even more transparent, both as organizations and as individuals, which means we must be clear about our vision, our intent. And this also means that the customers who are getting more and more comfortable with remote transactions will need more augmented shopping experiences, both in the stores and digitally. The social media itself is morphing into augmented platforms, filling in the social distancing needs. Whatever is happening with the social distancing is actually being filled up now very rapidly by new forms of social media. Collaborative team productivity tools will become important. If you have not embraced them already, there is no alternative. And lastly, the B2B operations will become more remotely delivered. Today, B2B operations, until now, there was a tendency for physical meetings. Now, actually, you can rethink, you can disrupt your B2B businesses by creating technology platforms which will permit you to reach and service many more customers, not just in India, but globally. So if I was to summarize whatever I've been saying so far, I'll do it in this one slide. Number one, reminder that home is the new center of creativity. It is what is going to drive the future of consumer spending. It's going to become very, very important. The winners will be the ones who will understand this, but act upon it, keeping in mind three other key phenomena that actually make any post-crisis period so exciting for economy and business, not just today. Number one, technology platforms have taken a giant leap, understand them, and embrace them. Number two, consumers as you knew them do not exist. Develop a fresh understanding of their behavior. And number three, most successful companies emerge leaner, fitter, and hungrier. Cut the fat out. You would have done that already because there was no option. Actually, that will serve you well, because it is important not just to cut the fat, but to build more muscle. And that, I mean, it is not enough to play to your strengths, but to acquire new capabilities. हम कहते हैं कि जब कोई क्राइसिस होता है, जब युग में कोई क्राइसिस होता है, तो एक नया अवतार जमीन पे आके उसको सॉल्व करता है. ये अवतार और कोई नहीं है, बट हम ही हैं. ये हमको अपना अवतार चेंज करना होगा. The businesses that become successful actually don a new avatar. आप भी कीजिए. And with this, I will hand over to Manoj to tell you a story.
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Anchal. So what Anchal has talked about is what we consider as the fundamental reasons of what is going on and what will be the opportunity. What I'm going to talk about is that how, as businesses, we are going to capture them, and what are some of the quick tools we can use and some of the quick structures, thinking we can use to really maximize our business opportunity. And how do we do this? So obviously, this slide is in a way connecting with what Anchal had talked. He talked about the changes in consumer behavior, which basically are in four major areas: the well-being area, the home area, the digital area, and sustainability. And this is creating new opportunities for all of us. And then there are certain business responses which we really can take to capture these business opportunities, which are in terms of new consumer entry points, new products and services, new business revenue models, value chain reengineering. So I'm going to touch upon, out of these business responses, three or four most important business response which each and every one of us can start working on if we have not already started working on. So let's look at the first one, which is very important. And this is about, knowing your muse. Now, the word we use in Valmore, we call it muse, is our inspiration consumer. The consumer, one single consumer who actually inspires us to create our product and services. Now, this consumer is not the largest market segment. It is the most discerning consumer. We call it in English, we can call it connoisseur. In our language here, in Hindi, we can call it parkhi. जो कोई ऐसा कंज्यूमर जो आपके प्रोडक्ट और सर्विस के बारे में बेहद अच्छी तरह से जानता है, और वो कोई ब्रांड लेबल या कोई एनवायरनमेंट, जिस एनवायरनमेंट में आप प्रेजेंट करते हैं, they will not look at those things as the most important thing. They will look at what we call as the cognitive aesthetic of the product. उस प्रोडक्ट का क्या टेस्ट है, उस प्रोडक्ट में क्या बैलेंस है, उस प्रोडक्ट में क्या उसकी वो है परख क्या है, उसकी असली तरह से वो प्रोडक्ट कैसे परफॉर्म करता है, फंक्शनल ही नहीं, मतलब बेसिकली उसके अंदर जो सारी बैलेंस उसकी आती है, दैट पर्सन इज योर डिसर्निंग कस्टमर. So basically we have to identify our discerning customer and figure out what are the behavior changes which are happening in the life of our muse. So I'll give you an example of a biryani brand which is very famous, and their customer is obviously their customers used to come and have their biryani in the restaurants. So it's a restaurant chain across the country. But now the customer is not able to come and come to the restaurant. So what is happening to the customer now? Now the customer is actually at home. You saw the importance of home, and therefore there is a changing context for this customer. Even the most discerning customer now, the most parkhi customer of biryani, is not able to get the same biryani at home, which he used to actually get it at the restaurant. So therefore, understanding that what is the need of the customer, how is that customer now cooking at home? If they are cooking at home, then what are the things they are actually facing problems with? What are their needs? What are their gaps? And what are their wants? That is what we really need to understand when we say know your muse. And remember, you have your muse, you know your target customer, your most important customer. Now the behavior of the customer is changing. And that is why we are saying that first understand the behavior of your most important customer. And this is very important for small businesses. आपको कोई major market research नहीं करना है. आपको अपने core consumers की behavior change के बारे में पता लगाना है. And that can be done by each and every one of us. Now let's look at what do you do अगर आपको पता चल गया about the change in behavior of your core customer, पारखी जो कस्टमर वो है, तो फिर आप उससे क्या करेंगे? तो what you have to first do is आप अपने ब्रांड का और अपने बिजनेस का डीएनए पहले समझिए. एक डीएनए होता है something which is very unique to your brand. So in our case we call it era. Era अगर आप देखेंगे उसके तीन पहलू होते हैं. एक होती है exceptionalness, which is something which you do very well, very difficult to copy from competition. The second one is rarity. Rarity means something which is, you know, you only have. And this is something which you are distinct for your brand, which is something which you only own, which no one else can copy. And authenticity is why people should trust you. तो अगर आप अपनी तीनों चीज़ों को देखेंगे, आपके करंट बिजनेस में आपका अपना एक एरा ज़रूर होगा। अगर आपका सक्सेसफुल बिजनेस है, आप कोई चीज़ बहुत अच्छी तरह से कर रहे होंगे, उसकी रूट जो होगी वो कुछ रेरिटी या डिस्टिंक्टिवनेस के ऊपर होगी, और आपके पास आपका मार्केट रेपुटेशन, योर समथिंग विल बी देयर विच इज़ ऑथेंटिक, ऑथेंटिसिटी जो आपकी होगी. So if you look at these three things, you have a current era. Now, what is happening is that your consumer is changing their behavior. They're actually trying and doing something differently. Their behaviors are changing. So now you have to reimagine your era. आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि now what will be the new exceptionalness, rarity and authenticity you need to build in. Generally, अगर आप वो बिरयानी ब्रांड को अगर देखें, अगर if you look at that biryani brand, let us say the authenticity of the brand is years of experience. They have been there for 100 years. Very, very old, authentic brand. It has the consumer's trust, right? So that is something already there. Then look at the rarity. Their rarity is a very special secret recipe, which no one else can copy. So those two things are already with them. But their exceptionalness in the past was how to deliver this nice biryani in every location in the country, in every city in the country. How to have a supply chain, how to actually train people so that the biryani which is made in Gurgaon is the same biryani which is made in Hyderabad. So that was their exceptionalness. But now, if their consumer or their customer is changing their behavior and they want to now consume it at home, then they will need to develop some new exceptionalness drivers. Something key, how to make that biryani which can be consumed at home, but actually has the same recipe, same taste as you get it at the restaurant. And this is where a new set of exceptionalist drivers will need to be created. So this is very important to really be able to look at what is the exceptionalness required and what is the new value proposition which you have to create. Now, one more thing I want to keep, make you aware here is that while you are making your plan for the core customer, which is the parquee, remember that there are other customers, jinko we can say amateurs and novice. And for these people, there are different exceptionalist drivers. So for example, the connoisseur will only be concerned with the taste of the product. How is the balance there? How is the taste coming of the product? But if you look at the novice and the amateurs, they will also be looking at the sensory and the experiential part of the product. That means that how is the product cooked, for example, in a utensil? How is it served on the table? How is it really, the whole decor of the dining table? How is it looking? Something like a restaurant experience is being replicated at home. And this is very important because you want all the types of consumers to actually look at your product. And this will really become very important in the home industry as we know, because we are now saying that brands like a restaurant brand, when it comes to home, it is not only going to benefit by focusing on the product, which is the biryani, but it has to also focus on all the other experiences which go around it. And for that, the home industry is going to be providing the solutions. So let's look at the other part, because after doing this, what is the brand going to think? And then what is the home industry going to benefit from it? So once you look at this, that, okay, I want to service this customer at home, and I want to move from the restaurant brand to a brand at home to deliver this, I will really need to look at what are the new consumer entry points. So as we said, the consumer is cooking at home. It is actually sort of putting products inside, making it together. So what are the new products and services required? So the company can start thinking, I need a paste, maybe a biryani paste. I need a biryani masala. I need basically a ready to cook thing. I need a ready to eat thing. So it will start thinking of those type of products which are now going to enter the kitchen of this particular customer who's making the biryani. But at the same time, as I mentioned, it is not only the product, there are experiences also which the company will need to create. And that is where the home industry comes and plays a role. Because it is not only about the product here, but how the product is going to be made. Maybe it requires a terracotta pot, which this brand can partner with a home industry brand to bring in a range of cooking utensils to make authentic biryani. Then this biryani has to be set on the table. There is a tablecloth which will be required. There are crockeries, cutlery. There is an ambience which is required, and this whole industry can be created around the experience of having something at home, which gives you a very authentic experience, as if you are actually enjoying it sensorially and emotionally sitting in a restaurant, but in a different way at home. And this is where I think what we talk about value chain reengineering, new business and revenue models will be very much required. And this is where the home industry should actively look at collaborating with such brands to bring an education to the brands as well, that look, you can take care of the product, but you collaborate with us to take care of the experience of these delivery of the products in the homes of consumers. And it's important to think of your industry not as selling, let's say, you know, tablecloths or tableware and home care products, but actually linking it with the experience the consumer is having. When they are savoring other products and services, and how the home care industry can supplement and complement this whole experience to make the experience more holistic for the consumer. And for that, it is very important that brands which come into the home care space really need to build capabilities very fast. They have to reimagine the supply chain. Look at the biryani example. The biryani example is that if the brand is actually very good in the restaurant business and they want to come to the home care business in the home, they will need to reimagine the supply chain. They will need to get into collaborations with home care brands like yours. They need to build omni brands, which is something where the brand is not only the product but an experience. And they need to also get into digital experiences, create digital, maybe cookery shows. Maybe they need to explain, how to make nice biryani. And of course, at the end, all is about entrepreneurial leadership. So let me put my last slide here, which is the Valmore value creation framework about how all these things come together. So the first one we talked about is understand your muse, the detailed profile of the brand's bullseye consumer. We talked about really one consumer who's your parquet consumer, the discerning consumer, and call that the connoisseur, and then understand what is the amateurs and novices needing, what is the context change which is happening. Second is to make your brand DNA, which is the era. Look at the exceptionalness, which is what brand does very well. Rarity is what other brands cannot copy. And authenticity is what people should believe the brand, why people should believe the brand. Make your value proposition, which is what your brand is permitting, is actually promising to deliver to the muse. So what is your brand promise? अब ये brand क्या deliver कर रहा है इस muse को? And then look at the value market fit. What are the type of products? What are the type of what is the size of the product of that particular segment? What is the growth? What is the profitability? What is the competitive intensity? And look at those sub segments in your category which match up with your reimagined era, with your reimagined DNA. And once you do this exercise, you will find that there is tremendous opportunity if you follow your consumer, look at your era, look at the value proposition, and do the value market fit. And then it is a question of building capabilities and execution. So with that, I'll just pass it back to Anshul to sum it up and take a few questions.
Yeah, Manoj, I would thank you. I would only leave the people with one message, which actually comes out from whatever I said and then Manoj actually iterated, is that when we are looking at the consumer today, look at what else is he or she doing, not just the kind of bed cover they may be buying, because that will tell you nothing. That they are reacting to what is available in the market today, but how they are listening to music, how they are cooking, how they are changing their behavior. And as Manoj showed with an example, any consumer change that is happening today will impact or creates an opportunity for the home industry. Apple would not be the Apple we know today if they had not understood how people listen to music. Apple had nothing to do with music. They were a computer making company. They wouldn't have been where they are today if they didn't understand how people are connecting with each other today. So they have the technology ability, okay. But to create those opportunities, to see those opportunities, you have to see beyond. And today the beauty is, and this is the, and with this, I'll leave you with open to questions back to Madhu, which is that anything that consumer might be doing today, so understand them wholly in their lifestyle changes. Whatever they might be doing today may end up giving you an opportunity in the home industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jain and Mr. Kumar, for this insightful presentation. We should definitely start preparing for future opportunities. We have questions coming in from the audience, and also to the audience, if you have any more questions, you could please put it in the Q&A tab in your control panel. Let's move on to our first question. How will the tier 2 and tier 3 markets react to post-COVID era on buying behavior?
Let me start and then Manoj, you can add. One of the big changes that is happening today is work from home. And work from home means that many of the professionals, especially the young ones, who had been in metro cities necessarily for work, have actually gone back to their hometowns, which are small towns, tier 2, tier 3 towns. With them, when they're going back, they're carrying back some aspirations or what they have been used to and wanting. In fact, this is how changes and evolution happens. So a big opportunity for tier 2, tier 3 towns, or even smaller towns than that, is more real than metro. And we've seen this time again and again and again, even in deliveries, etc. We've seen in the delivery business, for example, we've seen the shift happening. In e-commerce, we've seen this shift happening. So this is not at all a surprise to us. Manoj, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that tier 2, tier 3 towns are moving right now. They are really the focus for every business should be there because of the demographic shift, as Anchal said. But also even before COVID, these towns were really the ones where the aspirations, the hidden aspirations were coming up. Of course, the purchasing power issue always comes up. But the point is that since the demographic shift is happening with more people working from home and technology being the biggest enabler, because now everyone can, I actually get yoga classes. My yoga instructor has gone to his village and he's able to deliver yoga classes from his village to me every other day. And I'm sure that is also spreading some more, what you call technology spread, the technology virus spread is also going to happen in these places. So embracing technology, embracing things will become faster. I'm a great believer of tier 2, tier 3 in the future now.
Another question coming up from Ms. Shruti. How long do you think this boom in home textiles market will last? The new buying behavior.
The boom in fashion industry that started a century ago hasn't stopped yet. So the answer is very simple. Uh, Once people start enjoying, and they have started to enjoy home, and they're seeing it in a different light, see your own behavior. Just look at your own self, and I'm sure you have done more home improvement in the last few months, or you want to do right now, than you've ever done it. Unless it was once in a while, it was a momentary thing. शादी हो रही है घर में, या दिवाली हो रही है, मैं कुछ change कर दूंगा. But here it is for no reason, because you want it. And once that habit actually has set in, that behavior has set in, once home becomes and will become a new personal style statement, guys, it's here to stay.
We're also seeing a trend where, for example, people are moving from one bedroom house to two bedroom to three bedroom, trying to add a bedroom in every house. And I think that always means that for home industry, that's another sort of room to take care of. So I really feel that this whole work from home, creating a corner office, also the time you spend at home, will bring in and is bringing already more opportunities.
Great. Our next question is from Mr. Merchant. What will be the change in demand patterns for millennial customers, specifically for home products?
Hi, Rajiv. So number one, I think you would know as well as we do, and I mentioned that in our conversation earlier, that it's the younger ones, the millennials, who are going to drive the change in the way we look at home, which means that their aspirations are going to drive a lot of changes. So a lot of millennials actually live with parents still, joint families still. So there are two kinds of opportunities that are going to open up. Number one, millennials living alone or in couples. With more time spent, they will be the first ones who will drive the need to make their places more snug, more beautiful, more creative, more inspiring. And this is very different from functional before. कि मेरे को एक bedsheet तो चाहिए, एक pillow भी चाहिए, कुछ भी हो जाए, it doesn't matter. But now there is a need to make it more beautiful. I'm looking at it all the time. Also, we are entertaining more at home. We will entertain more at home. And the new culinary skills that we have acquired, we want to show off. बच्चों को बहुत पकड़ लिया, बीबी को बहुत पकड़ लिया, और किसी और को भी ढूंढना पड़ेगा ना. And the friends, I mean, I'm not likely to entertain so easily in crowded bars and restaurants, but I will probably more easily at home, especially when we have something to share. I would expect home cook-offs where friends collect together and cook. And that itself throws up many, many creative opportunities. And again, this will be led by the millennials. So this young market, the millennials anyway, are going to outnumber us. They are going to grow, and they're going to drive the future, current and the future consumption. There is no doubt about it. A lot of millennials are still living in joint families and with their parents. They will change their parents' behaviors as well. So I think it's a domino effect that will, in my opinion, be led by the millennials. Manoj, you want to add something?
I just want to also, my experience in other countries when I've been there, I always notice that the millennials are people who are not willing to spend too much money, because they want to really have more experiences. They would really look at more rotations rather than buying a heirloom and keeping it forever. So I think, in your product categories, you'll have to look at those things which are somewhat, practical yet aesthetically pleasing, but something which is not, they don't like possessions forever. They want to move on, they want to change, so they'll keep changing. And I think that's a behavior difference from the older, customers who would like to keep something expensive, something very, very this thing for a long time. Here you would see a lot more rotations, is what I feel.
Moving on to our next question from Mr. Agarwal. The hotel and institutional market has dried up with no renovations happening as they don't have the budgets. When will that perk up?
Well, I can say from my experience, because we are working with one company on hotel industry, is that it's already now starting. I think there was a lull. There was 6 months of complete, like you could imagine. But what's happening now is that we are seeing the rise of greenfield projects. I mean, some of the projects which were shelved, they are coming back again. We are also looking at, hotels looking at creating spaces for events, like 50, 100 people getting together for events. They are renovating in that area. There are people who are preparing for the future. Actually, at this point of time, it's actually predicted that somewhere by March or something, the hotel industry would really come back into a significant stuff, because people are wanting to get back to that parties, marriages, all even in a hygienic situation. So we have now started seeing new projects taking off, and I think you need to keep a close eye on this. One of the ways to check this out is to really check, these vendors who provide refrigeration services and who provide all these infrastructure services. And we keep an eye on those guys, and they keep on saying that, look, our business is now picking up, which basically means that there is more demand coming in. And therefore, following those demand patterns will be a good idea.
Mr. Gopal is asking, normally silk is bought by touch and feel. In your opinion, what are the possibilities of trying it through remote transactions?
Touch and feel is important not just in silk. Touch and feel is important in any lifestyle business. And I wouldn't say it will become any less important. But, even as I said, when there's no option, there's no problem. So people are also realizing that two things are happening simultaneously. That in the very, very important purchases which can be postponed, they're waiting. They're waiting for a physical interaction to start happening. Others are doing that, which means going to stores and touching and feeling is not taboo anymore as it was just a couple of months ago, except that they expect a new set of protocols by the retailers and adequate understanding physical distancing in the stores, new health measures in the stores, comfort and trust brought to the store. So in fact, some of the retailers we know are already beginning to invite their most important customers in appointed times where they take care of all those things. And in fact, what is happening is that fewer customers walking in, lesser footfalls, ending up in much higher purchase. So the conversions are higher, the ticket value is higher, the footfalls are smaller, and the onus is very much on the retailer as well, because unlike before, the consumers don't want to go retail hopping, shop hopping. They want to go to their most trusted shop. So trust is important. They want to go to their most trusted shop, and they hope and expect to buy more from that one shop. So the onus is also on stores, on the retailers, to provide a more wholesome service, product width, product choice, and quality pricing to that customer who's walking in. We've seen this happen again and again. So touch and feel एकदम गायब हो गई है ऐसा नहीं है. Secondly, customers are getting more used to shopping and knowing. जो पारखी है उसको तो पता ही है कि एक सिल्क देखने में भी कि कैसा टच होगा. There are other things happening, which is people making selections on video through video contact with the retailer, with the salesperson in the retail, and that salesperson is actually sending that short selection home to people. So there are multiple formats that are being that are emerging in the market. A lot of them may actually stick in the future as well as a norm.
We are already ahead time. So let's take our last question. Do you see major brands going faster, or the line 2 or 3 brands also growing faster?
My answer to that is very simple, and I'll let Manoj add to it. It's not about small or large brands anymore. It's about brands that people are able to trust. So you may be a small brand, but able to deliver and communicate that you can trust me. And that's why what Manoj talked about, authenticity in a brand, comes in very, very handy today. It's brands who are trusted, who are actually gaining more market share. It's not about large or small. Yes, large brand may mean more trust because large, being longer in the market, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing to this. I think more than the small large brand, I think also very important is the reinvented brand will work better. And I'll just give you one example because I don't know whether this point came across very, very well. See, I talked about the biryani example. Now just take an example of, let's say, wellness at home. People are not able to go to spa. They're not able to do this. Now they're bringing brands at home to get that feeling of spa and all. Now a brand could be a small brand today, and suddenly a home care brand, and they can see this opportunity and collaborate with let's say, a big brand in the personal care space. Right? Imagine that you collaborate, you're a small brand today, but you understand this psyche and you collaborate with a large brand which is going home. And you say that, look, I will create the home care experience for you. So why don't you complement home care in products in your spa experience? So you are actually giving shampoos and you're giving this and you're giving that. Why don't you have a holistic experience with other products of home care? And we can collaborate together. Now, if I give you this example, does it matter if I'm small or big? I mean, I have to be more innovative. And this is where the point I just want to leave you with a thought is, if you know your consumer and if you know other brands which are trying to out of your category, get out of your category. Don't only look at home care. Look at what else is happening there. And if you can collaborate, you will suddenly find, you'll become probably more trusted, wider, bigger, than just being operating in the old way you were thinking.
Just to finish on that point, it's a very important point that Manoj mentioned. Get out of your own home decor category. Look at collaborations outside, and the biggest opportunity is with restaurants and hotels. Something completely different, but if you challenge yourself, you'll find so many opportunities because they are struggling to go home and you're already in people's homes.
So we have so many questions coming up. If you could, fit in just one last with the second and third wave. This would be the last one, I'm sure. With the second or third wave in Europe, when will the exhibition industry, which involves a lot of people in the same space, start doing well? Online exhibitions are simply not the same.
Many things will not be the same, but they will be different. And you can see the exhibition industry in Europe already adapting. One of the largest cosmetic, in fact, not one of the largest cosmetic fair, Cosmoprom, recently concluded last week, actually went digital completely. And there are new platforms which are being formed today in connecting and for brand discovery and brand connectivity and transactions that are being created. Already 3 that jump at my in my head, but that is existing. Those transitions will be made, and I'm sure HGH will do the same. Exhibition industry has a very important, I mean, trade fair industry has a very important role to play. It has played and will continue to play in the consumer markets, in connecting the trade which is dispersed with the brands. Multiple ways of doing it. Eventually, until people will find confidence in collecting together in numbers, there will be other ways. And some of those innovations will actually stick into more collaborative hybrid deliveries. If I take an example of the classes, the program that I run at IIM Ahmedabad, Creative and Cultural Businesses program, it comes to the same thing. Online classes is not the same. But going forward, I know and I'm convinced that it will not be just one form of collecting together the students in a classroom, but it will be a hybrid, delivered in the classrooms and digitally. And that will be the magic. So magic is in making. Watch what is happening.
Thank you so much. I think with that, Mr. Rungta would like to add.
Thank you very much, Anchal. Thank you very much, Manoj. I think it was great vision coming out from both of you, delivered impeccably well. I suppose audience has felt very inspired. I can see in numerous numbers of questions still in the question box. So I think your points delivered that we are going to be living at home, we are going to be playing from home, we are going to be loving at home, and we are going to be working from home has been taken very well. It's not that people will stop socializing, but they will socialize differently. So we are talking of maintaining physical distance for some time at least, and not social distancing, as you very correctly said. And in this whole new era, in fact, I had somebody put up a question to you, Anchal, that what will happen to hotel industry and restaurant industry. Manoj answered that well. But I think Horeca people, for example, those who are playing, this is also for the audience, probably they will also have to, going by your logic, your argument, that probably the Horeca community will also have to start now looking at servicing the consumer market to create the same atmosphere that they were actually earlier only targeting to the restaurants and hotels. Probably the same products now they can hope to find customers amongst the consumer markets.
Absolutely right.
So the game is in for changing in many different ways, and I think it is an open, it's an open situation right now. Opportunities for anybody who wants to take it forward. So this is what I understand from today's presentation. Thank you very much. I think it is a lot of stimulus which has gone to the audience today. Thank you very much. And I'm sure many of them have also asked, can they get in touch with you? They would like to take it forward. So this is my message to everybody who wants to get in touch with Valmore, with Mr. Anchal Jain or Manoj. You can just write to us. We will connect them to you. To these two experts, and then you can take your business proposition forward with them. Anchal, with your, and Manoj, with your permission, I'm saying that. So I hope that would be all right. So I'm sure, because there are a lot of SMEs in our audience who are also wanting to find some individual business solutions through your action advisory services. So that is that. With all this, thank you very much for being with us, for sparing time for this very stimulating presentation, and we look forward to more such opportunities. And thank you, audience, for being with us. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Arun. Thank you, Madhur. Thank you, audience, for all the excellent questions. It was a pleasure being here. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
A big thank you from the entire HGH India team to our wonderful audience and esteemed speakers for joining us today. We're honored to have you here, and see you next time.